I wanted to turn our attention to the question, can there be more than one creator? If we're now arguing that this was created, can we now argue that there was more than one creator? One of the noble scholars of Islam, Ibn Abul Izz, he mentioned that what is well known with the people of knowledge is the affirmation, the acceptance of monotheism, the belief in one God, with the proof that if there was more than one creator for the universe, then when there was a discrepancy between those gods, those so-called multiple gods, then one of three things would happen. He says either one of them would want something to be in motion and the other would want that thing to cease to be in motion. So one of them would want the heavens and the earth or whatever it may be to be in motion. The other would want everything to cease in its motion. Or one would want to give life to something and the other would want to give death to something. So now they're opposite poles of one another with regards to the administration of the heavens and the earth. So he says that if this were the case, then either one of them would overpower the other. Because you can't say they're both equals. If they were both equals, and as we said, then there would be chaos in the creation. It wouldn't go in this harmonious way that we see it going, in this structured, balanced way. Harmony. The spheres floating in their perfect form, as we had mentioned earlier. And our Creator says in the book, the Quran, that if you were to look to the heavens, you would not find any rift. You would not find any rift in the motion of the stars and the movement of the planets. And you won't find any problems or miscalculations or like this in this movement. But if there were two equal, so-called co-equal gods, then there would be some rift because each one would want to have power over the other. Or one would overpower the other. And if that was the case, then one could not be called God. The one who overpowered would have to be considered God. And if they both were too weak to cancel each other out, then they could neither be called God in any way. So the idea of this has been refuted by intellect, firstly. And then our Creator says in the Quran, just to establish this, He says in the Quran, had there been in the heavens and the earth gods besides Allah, then verily both the heavens and the earth would have been ruined. You would see ruin in the heavens and the earth. And also Allah says in the Quran, Allah did not beget any offspring. He does not have children. We'll talk about this later. And there is no God besides Him. If there had been many gods, then each God would have taken away what He had created, and some would have tried to overpower others. Glorified is Allah over what they attribute to Him. So Allah Himself has established in the Quran what we had just mentioned, that if there were many gods, then there would be corruption, there would be chaos, because each God would try to overpower the other God and take away that which it had created. Now just to show you that this is not even far-fetched from the thinking of non-Muslims. This is not far-fetched from the thinking of those who are not Muslims. If anyone has ever studied anything of Greek mythology from the past, the Greeks have these stories about their gods, so-called gods, Zeus and Poseidon, Hera, and all these different gods that give names, and they got a god for everything, that the god of the clouds, the god of the mountain, all these different things they have gods for, right? So Zeus supposes the god of thunder, Poseidon is supposedly the god of the seas and the likes of this, and you have Hera who's supposed to be Zeus's wife and all this kind of stuff. So what happens in one of these stories is that when the Greeks were going to fight the Trojans, Zeus, who was supposed to be so-called head god, he didn't want the Greeks to reach the Trojans to defeat them. But Hera and Poseidon did. They sided with the Greeks. So when they tricked Zeus to fall asleep, Poseidon caused the oceans to swell up, right? So as to stop the Greeks from making it to the Trojans. Now Zeus supposedly wakes up and finds all this going on and becomes upset. So even the Greeks themselves, in their stories, and this is the reason why I mention this story, is to show you how foolish this idea has to be. Now you have all of these gods, and even the Greeks themselves would see that there would have to be some discrepancy. One God wanting one thing to happen, another wanting something else to happen. Zeus doesn't want the Greeks to make it, Poseidon does. Zeus falls asleep, Poseidon causes the oceans to swell up. So we see in the likes of these stories of these peoples of the past that they even understood this idea of multiple gods and how much corruption and chaos there would be in the heavens and the earth. And this also falls under that which we call anthropomorphism, which is the belief in giving human qualities to God. Giving human qualities to God. This is a belief that is from the uppermost in evil and transgression against the creator of the heavens and the earth. As a Muslim, we understand that there is nothing comparable to the creator of the heavens and the earth. There is nothing in this creation that is like him or that can be given as an example of him. He is far removed from this creation. He is above his creation. He is over the heavens. And he is not to be likened to anything in his creation. But what we find in the likes of these stories, and as we'll see later, labeling people as sons and daughters of God, all of this falls under this disbelief, or this act of disbelief, of giving human qualities to the creator of the heavens and the earth.